Tiffany is a name for the ages. Why the name Tiffany actually says more about how old you are, more than your own birth certificate. And it's time for another unbuckled bumpy ride with your guide, the stark raving LEAN-atic himself. I'm Jim. Let's jump right in again. Welcome to my podcast based on my brand new book, available on Amazon, Live Life Lean, L-E-A-N. It's a year-long guide to gratitude and our daily grind. The book that combines some timeless wisdom from a whole lot of the world's wiser people with the reflections, reactions, and wisecracks of the guide's author, me. And it guides you, the reader, through the simplest system for a happy, healthy, authentic, and genuinely grateful everyday experience. I urge you to get the book. Of course I do. I wrote it. It's either at Amazon or at my website, ampurage.com, A-M-M-P-U-R-A-G-E. But even without it, let's make next week better than last, our next year better than the past, and get started now with today's episode of... So, what's really in a name? What does a specific name actually say about the person or the entity that it's attached to, that it's ascribed to? Maybe not all that much. Maybe it speaks volumes. I guess, depending on how maybe someone sees themselves based on their name. I mean, my name is Jim. So, what are the odds that I grow up to own a Jim? And like if you were named David Justice, that's got to be a really high percentage chance that you'd grow up to become like a cop or an attorney or a judge, right? I mean, it just makes sense, because you'd never waste a name like David Justice on being, a pro baseball player, right? Nah. But what is in a name are actually two things. What their originator intended and what their audience, maybe us, interpreted. Take a name that I really thought was honestly kind of just fluffy, pretty, maybe not a lot of depth to it. A name like Tiffany. See, I always thought Tiffany was a light and sparkly name that didn't really signify much. But I was way wrong. There are so many Tiffany's with terrific diversity. And freaking multi-generational to the extreme, going back decades. And just off the top of my head, I thought of 4 distinctly different Tiffany's. So I wonder, based on who you are and how old you see yourself to be, what's the first thing that you think of when you hear the name Tiffany? And I'll bet it says something about how old you are or how old you see yourself. Like go back, way back, decades, and you have Breakfast at Tiffany's, a movie with Audrey Hepburn, like 1960s or so, I believe. And yeah, it's about Tiffany's, the store. And in 1960, you couldn't even get breakfast at Tiffany's. But I digress. Now, fast forward a few years, and you have the one-hit wonder 80s pop star named Tiffany, whose big hit, I Think We're Alone Now, which itself honestly was a cover and was originally like a late 1960s hit, but not as much for the original artist as it was for Tiffany, the 1980s singer. No, not the 1960s cinema selection. Wow, just 2 Tiffany's, and it's almost already too many. But don't get confused, we have 2 more to get through. Now, how's about the 2000s, huh? How's about Tiffany Blues, a hit song by power pop group Fall Out Boy? And also, might I add, the name for a kitten that my daughter and I found. Tiny, sweet, fragile little survivor kitty with big blue eyes, hence Tiffany Blues. But we shortened it to just TB out of laziness. We got lazy after a while, and you don't want to be yelling at Tiffany Blues, Tiffany Blues. So, we named it TB, okay? And then TB, came to stand for Tiny Bitch. Because, well, that's exactly what she was, okay? We move on. And nowadays, say the name Tiffany and or start to, try and Google the word Tiffany. And lo and behold, up comes comedic actress Tiffany Hadisch. One of the really true, awesome comedians that we've had. Really, they're one of the cooler ones we've had recently since Now and Then. So yeah, Tiffany. Did you think of one of these? Did I miss one? Either way, Tiffany seems to be a timeless name, a name not just hijacked by a special age or generation. But as for me, want to know how old I am or feel? Well, I thought of the 80s Tiffany. Why, you may ask? Well, I'm glad you did, because it was a recent Sunday morning when laying in bed, just talking with my wife, my body felt a little beat after a long week and a late Saturday night before, and my brain began to rewrite, or what I thought was making the most of, Tiffany's most famous hit song. And yep, I did it. In minutes, I took, I think, We're Alone Now. I Think We're Alone Now, and I reminted it anew from my aging perspective, and now I bring to you I Think That We're Old Now.
Better behave. That's what we were told when we were youngsters. But we'd stay out late, raising hell, missing church next day on Sunday. Now decades later we don't act the same. Experience put wisdom in our brains. Raising hell's not the same. Past 55, you wake up thinking you're hungover from just 2 glasses of wine, and then you say, I think that we're old now. Our hair's all turning gray, or it's falling out. I think that we're old now. The music that they play always seems too loud. It has been said that getting old is not for sissies. At least we're not dead. But how we're still alive is a mystery. Our wild times are turning kinda tame. We're smarter, but we can't control our brains. Trying to stay up late, make it past 9, but I keep looking at my wristwatch and I'm yawning all the time. It makes me say, I think that we're old now. My knees won't get me up if I boogie down. I think that we're old now. I only get ID'd for old age discounts. I think that we're old now. The songs we hum and sing have that oldie sound. I think that we're old now. Now we're only taking risks if the cops are around.
So yeah, how's about that? The original song, I Think We're Alone Now, was from like 1967, I think. And then the Tiffany version was from like 1987. Now, almost 35 years later, comes the new and improved version. And yeah, that I know them all of them, is proof enough that I do think that I'm old now, okay? So I hope you're still listening. I hope I still have an audience. And like I said, a name like Tiffany generally means 2 things: what the audience interprets and what the originator intended. And when it comes to Tiffany, learning what it meant originally was an epiphany to me. And that should also come as no surprise, because the name Tiffany should come as an epiphany to you. It should come as an epiphany to everyone. See, its originally it came out as a medieval English version taken from theophania. And it meant, or was intended to communicate, an enlightening appearance from God. Yep, Tiffany was meant as an epiphany, which is an enlightening from God. So Tiffany jewelry? Yep, God. And Tiffany the bubblegum pop girl? Yep, God again. Tiffany the girl sung about by Fall Out Boy? Bet they didn't know it then, but yep, God. And Tiffany Hadisch, well, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if her mama or someone didn't know the intention of the name, the name Tiffany as an epiphany, because that woman can make you laugh, and laughter is definitely a gift from God. See, the real epiphanies that we find are often there when we just slow down and try to appreciate those things, even those names that are not just of our generation, from our familiar time, but the enlightenment that we can experience can come when we open our ears, open our eyes, our hearts, and our minds to the things that are valuable to us all from outside our born into it boxes, born into our times and our eras. And when we accept the things that we'd initially have to maybe adjust or adapt to, and we adopt them as our own, well, we're not taking them from another person. We're not taking them from another generation or an era or a race or a group. We're just appreciating them, paying them homage, and enshrining their value, giving the due respect and recognizing what they mean, not just to us, but to the world, not just for now, but for then and for forever. Because you never know when something that you may think is a fluffy, sparkly, shallow thing, like a name, like Tiffany, can teach us all, timeless lessons. Lessons for the ages, not just for those who feel aged. Wow, do I feel old now. And now, more words of wisdom to wow your socks off from the Live Life Lean Guide itself. This time, entry from page number 4. What the expert said? It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Epictetus. And the guide's point of view on this? I know a guy who thought his parents were fine examples of out-of-the-box open-mindedness until he discovered politics and came to wonder how his folks could be so wrong all the time. If you're listening out there, you know who you are. So, using the Live Life Lean system, what do you think about this? What have you learned recently that's new? What have you earned that wasn't just given to you? Where are you adding to the world that isn't just thinking about you? Now be grateful for all of that. Reflect on it. Respect it. But before you navigate somewhere next, please like, subscribe, and share to show you care. Thank you for listening. I hope you're enjoying your copy of the Live Life Lean, LEAN guide. Enjoying it almost as much as I did creating it. And if you don't have a copy yet, go on over to amperage.com or Amazon and get started today experiencing the amazing power of knowing every day is literally yours to be grateful about. And you need never feel unfulfilled again. I'm Jim Hall. And until next time, good health, God bless. And now, go get a little dirty learning something new. Earning what's not given to you. Adding to this crazy world that we share. And navigating your way to something new and next.